Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Sean Blackburn with Sweetfish Media. Joined today by Jesse Marble. He is the Chief Marketing Officer over at Magneti. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sean. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat today.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you on the show. And today we're going to be talking about how to hire an agency and be a good partner. But before we jump into that, if you can just give our listeners a little bit of background about yourself and what it is that you guys over at Magneti are up to these days.
Yeah, thanks. So my background is actually in tech marketing, tech startups. I went to work for a tech company right out of school. A couple weeks after I started, the marketing director quit. The CEO came to me and he said, hey, you did marketing in college, right? I said, well, one class. And he's like, great, you're in charge. So went to a bunch of, workshops and conferences and really soaked it in, but lots of kind of on-the-job training for me. So worked in the tech world for a few years. And then on the side, working on one of those jobs, we decided to start a marketing agency. And we've been doing Magneti now for about 8 years. And it's an awesome, fun journey to work and run a marketing agency.
Yeah, and I'm excited to kind of unpack for our audience today how they can approach a marketing agency. A lot of our people in our audience, work inside of B2B brands and, get pitches all the time. So I'm excited for you to kind of talk about how you would approach this if you were on the other side of the table.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things come to mind related to how to think about an agency. There could be lots of reasons why you hire an agency. Sometimes it's capacity. You know that there's talent inside of an agency, and so you're buying capacity, you're buying hours and buying talent. That's one really common, viable way to hire an agency. Another one is to think about an agency not in adding capacity to what you already have, but a unique skill set. So whether that's video or PR or maybe real kind of technical SEO for web. So kind of a complementary skill set. Another way we hope to be hired normally is really around results and outcomes. So lots of our clients come to us and say, hey, listen, we need your help growing. We need more traffic, more leads, more business, in whatever form that is. And so that's another way to think about an agency. It's really good when you're approaching an agency to know kind of what you think you're buying. One common thing is for people to not realize, hiring an agency, if you look at hourly rates, they're pretty expensive. They can be maybe not quite as much as, a lawyer, but could be easily a couple $100s an hour. You probably wouldn't want to hire an agency if they're just doing some production design work that you could find somebody significantly cheaper, right? So the thing about an agency is hopefully you're seeing this really high-end strategic value that they're bringing and that they're not just kind of replacing an FTE or a human body. So those are kind of the really, really specific ways to think about hiring an agency. Some other things related to the partnership is an agency, just like anybody else on your team, is going to grow with you at the rate at which you're able and willing to give productive feedback. And so what's really interesting we've run into with some clients is they even though we've got process, we've got a smart team, we've got awesome folks at the table, we're still getting to know the client. And the faster we can grow in that trust and really open, active communication, the faster we're going to get where we're going together. And it's amazing in my mind how some clients assume that the agency's skill set includes mind reading. And I've yet to run into an agency that has that. So you get a lot with an agency, and hopefully you're seeing the value, even at those, $200 hourly rates, whatever that price point is. But you also need to view them as a partner who you should kind of give a seat at the table to in important discussions around what you're doing.
I really love that. I think that one thing that's super important to you guys over at Magneti is overall having a great culture and the values that you guys have. Maybe speak to the importance of being aligned on that with the agency that you do hire, and how much that's going to affect the relationship in the long term.
Yeah, culture is huge, and it's something we talk a lot about at Magneti. And here's what's fascinating is, so I'm going to zoom out for a second, talk about our perspective of brand at Magneti. So we are a digital agency, but we actually call ourselves a brand and digital agency. A lot of people, when they hear the word brand and they say, hey, we're going to do a rebrand, what they think they're saying is they want a new logo. But there's so much more to a brand than just a logo. We view brand as the entire set of experiences and expectations that an organization lives out. It's not just a logo. It's not just a website. It's not just a color palette. All those things are part of the brand, but the brand is the entire kind of summation of all those experiences. And that includes customer experience. Customer experience is a huge part of what we call behavioral brand, where how you answer the phone matters. How you smile at people when they walk in the store matters. How you respond to emails. All that stuff slowly adds up to build this perception of what the brand is and stands for. So if that's true, and customer experience is a big part of brand, well, what drives the operational side of customer experience? It's culture and HR. And so one of the strange ironies of living in the brand world is some of the most important work we do is around aligning a bunch of people in a company around what the brand means so they can live it out too. So after we do like a big brand strategy project, for example, there's really two big phases to what most people use the term, rolling the brand out. When we do rollout, we actually break that in half. And there's a phase before rollout that we call roll in. And roll in is the internal work it takes for everybody in the organization to align around what that brand means, and that we're all ready to kind of be that brand externally. So then when rollout is putting a new sign on the building and new website and putting new, van graphics on the fleet of vehicles, all that kind of stuff, that's all rollout. But we think the highest leverage point is around the roll in. So, at Magneti, we certainly have a culture that we obsess over and want to continue to work on and grow and be great leaders. But for our clients, what we're going to really be kind of talking about is that HR is a big deal. It's not, this kind of thing off to the side to support. In many ways, we believe that the brand experience is this tip of the iceberg, right? That's what people experience, but it's the culture that's underneath. It's the, you hear these crazy stories. This was just a couple of years ago, but somebody called one of the big cable providers or internet providers to cancel their cable. And the poor customer service rep on the phone had been having a bad day. And it was like this hour-long conversation, and the CSR literally just kind of like berated the customer. And obviously that's a really sad moment, but if you look through this lens of kind of HR, culture, and brand, that was a really bad brand experience, and the kind of all the PR and all the social media, that story going viral is what the marketers look at. The brand people are kind of going, well, that's not good for the brand.
Right.
And the way we think is, well, I wonder what the culture of that organization is like, such that this person had that kind of day, such that they would respond like that. So culture is just so at the heart of what emanates out. It's almost like good culture oozes out in the form of a great brand experience.
Some of that great brand experience is clarity in the vision and the offering that a company can offer. And I know we were talking before we started recording, a common frustration that people have when they're approaching an agency is just knowing what sort of value they can be offered by partnering with them. And so I guess, why is it that you feel like sometimes you go to a digital agency or maybe they're an ad agency, but it's so tough to figure out what sort of value you're getting from someone, even just looking at their LinkedIn, company profile.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, we've started to hear this question more, and I love it. And I think everybody should ask this or form of this question when they're talking to an agent. A lot of agencies can do a lot, right? A lot, especially when they call themselves full service. There's so many things within the marketing world: PR, video, social media, and influencing, SEO, email. I mean, there is just a ton that we can offer. But just a form of the question, what is your sweet spot? I hear all of that, but describe to me the thing that you think you do better than anybody else. And I think that answer can hopefully start to put a center of gravity towards how this organization thinks. Within the agency world, I mean, even if you pull offering aside for a sec, there can be some very different perspectives to how agencies think. So some agencies are more design focused. And sometimes you can tell this by the titles of the people. It'll oftentimes have been started by somebody who is really good at art or graphic design.
Mm.
And their mojo is incredible visual design. You have some other agencies that are really good with content. And when I use the term content, I mean, usually that agency maybe was started by somebody who is a writer or communicator of some kind.
Right.
Some agencies are more kind of technology driven. Like a lot of digital agencies are a lot of HTML and CSS heads who know that skill set is really powerful in the world of the web. And so it can be, almost like a web developer focused culture and perspective.
Mm.
You have another one that's like PR. And PR is a very specific combination of channel and content that is focused on getting your story told by others. So there's just kind of these different kind of sometimes regardless of offering, there's also this perspective piece, that kind of perspective thread that can run through. How we think about it, we're a digital agency, but we believe that's kind of the end of our process. We like to say we're digital marketers who like to chase problems upstream. Marketing is actually the fourth of our four phases. There's a lot of digital agencies. Yeah, it's really fascinating because people come to us like, hey, we want you to do our social media. And we say, okay, well, hold on a sec. That's the bottom of the funnel. Telling your story, there's so many things that have to happen first. So one of the things that's really important in 2019, this has been true for 10 years now, for most brands, the center of the customer experience is digital and therefore the web. There's a stat, something like 70% of the buyer's journey is done before they talk to you the first time. This is common in B2B and B2C. I've looked at their website. I've looked at their social media. I've looked at some competitors. If it's a restaurant, I've gone on Yelp. So the web is just such a centerpiece for the entire brand experience. So that's our phase 3. So before you do marketing, the web needs to be in a really healthy place. Lots of organizations, though, yeah, we could do a cool website, but what are they selling and what is that brand experience? So our phase 2, so before we build a website, is brand. We do a lot of brand strategy, brand development work so that it can come to life on the web. And then a lot of organizations, though, maybe haven't listened well and they don't know what brand experience they should be creating. So our phase 1 is research. So at least at Magneti, that's kind of how we think. Yes, we're digital marketers, but we really believe there's so much upstream that affects our performance that we want to have our hands in a little bit. So lots of digital agencies, they're great at optimizing email open rates. They've got on-page, SEO tactics dialed in, whatever that is. But many of them don't have as part of their offering or perspective well, what are we selling and is it worth buying? And that's something, at least for us, we're willing to kind of go upstream a little bit more. And once you do the research, you've got a brand story that you think is healthy, right, and meaningful to your audience, comes to life in the web. Then when you get back to the marketing part, I don't want to say it's like shooting fish in a barrel, but you sure
Make
know
some of those decisions easier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's so dialed in. You understand the channels, you understand your product, you understand the content, and you can find these people and sell them the product or whatever that combination of things is. So that's kind of how we think. But here's the thing: is there's a lot of agencies will sometimes specialize even in a very specific channel. So there's other
Right.
agencies that just do social media. And there's so many little categories like that. I know an agency that just does email. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of SEO specific shops. So there's plenty of opportunity even in those more like niched out channel specific offerings. At Magneti, we just decided to kind of layer them on a little bit more and go upstream. But there's lots of different agencies, and I think getting to the heart of what are you buying? Are you buying capacity? Are you buying growth? Are you buying results? What are you buying? What's their sweet spot? What would they say their top offerings are?
Right.
And what is the perspective that they bring to the table that is unique? I think those are the things that really want people to think through when they're hiring an agent. And lots of other stuff around, pricing and contract terms, blah, blah, blah. But like those are the important gates at the front end, is really understanding the agency's sweet spot.
The second half of our title here is how to be a good partner. And I know you alluded to that in some ways, when it comes to the importance of good, productive feedback and, having a two-way street and, the fact that an agency is not a mind reader. Maybe if you could just give one more nugget of wisdom as you are looking at people who might be contacting you here at some point. What's the thing that you wish that some people understood about working with an agency and how they can set themselves up for success?
Yeah, so a couple of things come to mind there. One is asking the question of timeline to results. It's a great question, and one that a good agency should be able to answer. And it's going to depend on the channel or the strategy. So Sarah Bird, who's now the new CEO of Moz, post Rand Fishkin, she was at Inbound this last year, the conference. She made a great comparison, for example, between pay-per-click and SEO. I'll loop this around here in a sec. It'll make sense in a sec. But so what she said was pay-per-click is like day trading and SEO is like your 401k. That kind of cuts to the heart of this kind of topic in question of, well, what are your expectations around results in a specific time frame? So like pay-per-click,
Right.
If you got $5,000 and you want to spend it and you want to put ads up on Facebook or Google or use any other DSP to place ads online, you could spend the money real fast. You could get ads up real fast.
Indeed.
SEO, though, is a different animal. And it's because Google's algorithm is going to work at whatever pace they want. And while there's a lot of folks who are kind of watching Google and kind of announcing updates and stuff like that, there's not a button that says, show my site higher now, that you can push for
Right.
SEO, right? It's all these kind of swirling factors. So being able to ask your agency based on the strategies, what kind of expected results. So pay-per-click campaigns, we should be able to get up pretty fast. SEO results, well, sometimes we've seen SEO work start bearing fruit literally in month one in
Right.
terms of rankings on the SERPs. Other times it could take 4 to 6 months. It can be excruciating. And that's frustrating, is when we're
Indeed.
doing what we think is great work and it's just not moving the needle yet. So I think trying to be really specific, not just, hey, when will we see results? But based on the different things we're trying, when do you expect to see results? So we also have a framework that we kind of made up at Magneti, and we call it the results ascent. Like at the top of this mountain are the financial results that the client is paying us for. More business, more leads, You have hired Magneti to grow your business, and you are seeing that business grow. But there are actually 5 steps, five phases up the mountain, 5 kind of stops along the way. So the bottom, imagine it's kind of a mountain, and we're kind of going up. So the base of that mountain is trust and relationship. The thing about hiring an agency is that when you write the first check, you don't actually get anything. You don't get a car. You don't get a product. You don't get a pencil. You are buying people and process and experience. And so the first time you write the check, you're just kind of going, okay, here we go. So you started on trust and relationship. That's all you kind of have to go. The next level up that you should see from your agency right away is some amount of unique insights. What you hope you're hearing from your agency is they are saying things related to their process, related to their experience, related to what they're learning from you that's valuable. You're learning some things about even your own business that they're bringing to the table. So that's kind of layer 2. The next stop up, the results ascent, is quality work and deliverables. So even long before, for example, we're actually seeing SEO results, we've got an SEO plan and content plans and these checklists and processes. So you should start to see that right away, right? You should start to see them, back there in the kitchen cooking the food. You're not eating the food yet. You're not even smelling the food yet, but you're at least seeing them in the kitchen. That's
seeing some
that's
movement,
the kind
right?
of yeah. So then once they've started to do work, the 4th phase, the 4th stop, second from the top, is some sort of movement in secondary KPI. So we don't have new business yet, but we're seeing rankings go up. That's great, right? That is awesome. We need that. Now, maybe hasn't converted new clients yet. We don't see the cash flow yet, but they are moving the needle. You should see. You got to get to that point. Depending on channel, again, right? It's going to be a different phase, but you're starting now. You smell the food. You're smelling the food now. And then that last phase, phase 5, where I hope everybody can get with their agency is results, financial results, that there is net new attributable revenue that the agency says, this is because you hired us.
Right.
There's an interesting little chasm, and we've played with where we put it. I think it tends to fall probably between steps 2 and 3. So between the unique insights and deliverables that we jokingly call the valley of buyer's remorse. It is really common once you hire an agency, you're all excited through the sales process, you sign a contract.
Starting to write some
month
checks.
1, you kick off. Yeah, you started writing some checks. Trust me, the agency is frantically trying to get work done because they want to show you something fast. But there's a lot of work to do to kind of get up to speed. But it's common. Maybe it's month 2. You just kind of go, oh man, okay, we are a long way from financial results. And it just feels like that peak is a long way away. And so being able to just have a good, healthy communication with your agency around what's happening and what kind of things should we be seeing, what kind of deliverables and milestones are we going to see when. But at least for our team, those first few weeks are we got a lot of work to do to kind of get up to speed. We haven't shown results yet. And so we're just trying to get into the quick wins as fast as possible so that the client can go, okay, they know what they're doing and we're not just going to keep writing a check every month for these people. So we use that a lot. Where are we on the results ascent with a given client? And it really can help us say, okay, they just haven't seen anything from us yet. Let's get to, phase 3. Let's show them a deliverable, or, okay, how quickly after the deliverable will we start to see those KPIs, kind of that phase 4.
And Jesse, I think that is a fantastic spot to wrap up this conversation. And I appreciate so much your perspective on this. I know I've learned a lot, not being from the agency world. And one, I love that you guys have a mountain analogy for how your team thinks through this, being from Colorado. So I love that. And then 2, I really appreciate your transparency, and just unpacking that for the audience. I think this is going to be something, a guide like this is super helpful, I think, whenever someone's considering, starting a conversation with an agency. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing that perspective on how to hire an agency and be a good partner. As I'm listening to it, I know I want to hear more from you. If anyone in the audience wants to do the same and wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Jesse Marble, and Magneti.com, Magneti is our website. We'd love to chat with folks, or via LinkedIn, I can kick off kind of a personal conversation too. So I think probably LinkedIn's the best spot to find me.
Perfect. Well, I know we are all on LinkedIn, so certainly appreciate you coming on the show, Jesse, and sharing your perspective, and can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. It was enjoyable. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.